Hello, everyone. Today is October 7, 2025, and this is the Fort Worth Astronomical Society Astrophotography Special Interest Group meeting. And the subject of today's meeting will be calibration frames and how they can improve your images. We're also going to talk about the group project, which is the Helix Nebula. Bob Circus is going to talk to us about status of our remote observatory at Rising Star. So let's get started right now. So one of the things that I did for tonight's meeting was I sent a hyperlink so that people, if they wanted to, could download some recent images that I took using my new plane wave telescope. And I stacked the images, and then I gave you copies of the images so that you could see how they look with the stars removed and no processing, to compare calibration frames where the calibration process included using flat frames, flat darks or dark flats, which are used to calibrate the flat frames, and then dark frames as well. And I was surprised. I'll tell you the reason I stumbled down this path was I was seeing that without including any dark frames or bias frames in the stacking process, I was finding that I was getting a lot of problems with the image because of dust motes in the imaging train. And it didn't occur to me that, at first anyway, that by including dark flats and darks, that this would impact that, because it was my understanding, based on how the stacking process works, the flat frames are used for that purpose. So I started adding, as an experiment, the calibration frames to calibrate the flat with a dark flat, and with a dark frame to calibrate the light. And I saw a noticeable difference, not just with the removal of the artifacts from the optical train, but I also saw, at least in my opinion, I saw more detail. And perhaps that can be explained because in the process of removing the artifacts, maybe the detail is therefore more readily visible. That's my best guess on it. But I wanted to see if anybody else in the group was willing to do the same experiment. And I don't know if anybody was able to do that or not. And if so, we'd love to see what your findings are. But I've sent you those images so you can see for yourself, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. We're also going to talk about flat frames in general, and I happened to have a conversation with one of our members about flat frames, Chris Ashford, and Chris indicated that he prefers to take sky flats instead of taking some sort of an illumination device to create flats. And so I asked Chris to be prepared to speak for a little bit on that topic, and he agreed to do so. Thank you, Chris. And after we talk about the calibration frames, we'll move on to the group project, which is the Helix Nebula, and then we'll wrap up with Bob talking about what is going on at Rising Star. And then the final thing we'll talk about is just general questions and answers that people might have on other topics that aren't designated for tonight, so that if you are running into a problem, let us know. We'll do our best to provide help to you. And otherwise, just chat about what everybody's doing, what we're imaging, and so forth. So I'll go ahead and get started, and I'll show you what I've got on PixInsight. Let's see here. And okay, you should be able to see, hopefully, my screen. And what I've currently got is the Wizard Nebula, and I'll increase the size of this so hopefully you can see what I'm talking about. And this frame is a hydrogen alpha frame where I stacked the image and I calibrated it using flats that were created with a flat panel specifically made by Prima Luce Labs for the purpose of making flats. It was taken with my Planewave CDK 12.5-inch telescope, the Player One Poseidon M camera. Those are the main things you should know. And as you can see, the PixInsight stacking process, weighted batch pre-processing, did not do a very good job of getting rid of all of the dust motes. There's a really big one here at the bottom, and there's a few others, and there's a lot of vignetting. And I just, when I started to see this, I was wondering, what am I doing wrong? Is it the flat panel? Should I be creating flats in a different way? And it was surprising to me. I didn't expect this result. These cameras, including Player One, advertise that because there is very little thermal noise, that dark frames are not needed. And I'm summarizing, that's not a direct quote, but they at least imply that dark frames are not needed because of the low level of thermal noise. But as you can see, this is not this is not a very good image. And if you're starting with something like this from the start, and you've got all kinds of problems with the image from the start, that's going to make things a lot harder for you to create an image that later on you'll feel good about. So let me now show you the same image where I used flats, bias, and darks. And I think you'll agree that this image is a much better quality image. There might be some artifacts from perhaps the star removal, maybe down towards the bottom, but it is significantly better and cleaner. And I have no issue with processing this image. The vignetting is totally different. I mean, there's some here, but a significant improvement, in my opinion, all because I added the flat dark and the dark frames as part of the stacking process. So, but that's not all, because I also found, in addition to just getting the problems with the imaging train calibrated out, the dust motes, that kind of thing, I also found with a different image, which I'll show you now. I was doing the Fish Head Nebula, and so what I did here was to make it a little bit easier to see. I don't know how easy it will be, but I created sort of one set that were cropped to a specific spot of red, green, blue, and HA that used dark frames, and a second set that did not. And here I'm less concerned about comparing them for purposes of seeing that, hey, I've got problems with vignetting or I've got problems with dust in the imaging train. I saw a difference in detail. So that's what I wanted to show you, or that was the purpose of showing you this. And I think it may be best illustrated with the hydrogen alpha frame. So I'll start with those. So I'll put the hydrogen alpha frame. This one did not include any dark frames when I created this image. And while I don't necessarily have an issue with the dust motes here, I just was not very impressed with the detail. And then when I compared it to an HA, well, I just feel that this is a much brighter image. It seems to have more detail to me. And I'm much happier with the quality of this image than I am with the one that does not have the HA. And one of the reasons why I wanted you to take a look at these and I gave you links was because I just don't know uh, how clear this will appear just on a side-by-side comparison on a low resolution recording of a Zoom conference. But if I take these two images and I make them, they're both at a ratio of 1:2. Here's the HA. I think if you look on the image to the right, you can see a difference in brightness. And along if this is the fish head here, you can see that the fish head is brighter, and this area above the fish head is also significantly brighter. And the only thing that I did was remove the stars. I didn't, this is just a screen transfer function of each image, and the level of detail in the HA, let's just take a look right here. I'll zoom in on the no flats and the one with the flats. Hopefully you can see how much better the one on the left looks in every compared to the one on the right. We'll do this one more time, maybe, although I gave you the red, green, and the blue. I think it's fair to say it's consistent for all of those filters. Let's look at the green, the two greens, and the one on the left here has the dark, and the one on the right does not. You can clearly see the vignetting of the one on the green on the bottom right-hand corner. But there's also, in my opinion, better detail. If we zoom in over here, and they're both at a ratio of 3:1 here, I can see better detail, at least on my computer screen, in the green image for this area of the nebula. So that I thought was worth discussing with the group. We can see the same phenomena with the blue. Let's just do side by side with the blue.
Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Sorry, I got here late. We had an event and we just got in. Is
Okay.
this, I remember your email on this and I compared, there was obviously a big difference in the two. I thought the difference was we did one with flats and one with flats and darks, or is this the difference between flats and no flats?
Right. I'm sorry if said something incorrectly. I didn't mean to. The one on the right was calibrated with flats only. The one on the left was calibrated with flats and darks.
And the one on the flats, did you do biased or just flats?
Just flats. So
Okay.
no other frames were used to do calibration.
Because
And
I did it once. I did flats and biased first, flats, darks, and I saw no difference. But I did do bias on my
okay.
flats.
So what you're doing then is you're calibrating the flats with a dark frame, a bias
Right.
frame, right? So you're
Yeah.
calibrating the darks and you're not seeing a difference. But I bet if you took that bias frame out, you would.
Probably so.
And that's
That's what I was curious about on yours.
right. So the concept here is, are you calibrating anything other than just using a flat frame? Because, as I said earlier, a lot of these camera manufacturers are implying that dark frames are no longer needed because their sensor is so great
Right.
and there's no thermal noise. So there should be no need to use dark frames. And there are some YouTubers out there, and I'm not here to criticize
Yeah.
anybody, but there are some YouTubers out there saying, oh, you
Well,
don't
yeah,
need
the
dark frames.
lazy
Well,
geek.
so point of clarification though.
Yeah.
Okay. So dark flats and bias are kind of about the same. So you take your dark flats at the same exposure length as your flat, right?
Correct.
Whereas darks are taken at the same time scale or the same time length as your lights. So if you have a 300-second light, you have a 300-second dark. And I haven't been using darks, the dark frames that manufacturers say you don't need anymore, but I have continued to use dark flats to calibrate my flat frames. So I'm wondering if maybe there's some confusion about, a dark frame, which is like a 300-second frame for a 300-second light image versus dark flats among the group.
Um, Peter, what I'd heard originally back when my first camera was a 294, which
Hmm.
actually had amp glow. So
Hmm.
you absolutely had to do darks.
Yep.
Biased wouldn't work. You had to do darks to get rid of that amp glow. Then
Yep.
I went to that 2600 and I'd watched this guy, Lazy Geek, and
Yep.
he was like, he said, if you dither, he said the darks do two things. It gets rid of noise, gets rid of amp glow, it gets rid of hot pixels. He
Hmm.
said, but if you dither while you're capturing, that should get rid of your hot pixels. And he
Right.
said the 2600s have such a low noise ratio that he didn't see a big difference in using dark flats and darks versus bias. So he's still using a dark frame, but he's using a bias instead of a dark flat. And I actually, on one of my images, now I went all the way through to processing. Maybe I should have did it more like, and next time I'll do it more like what you did and look at the raw images, starless. But I went through processing, but I did the exact same processing in my two images. I did a flat, dark, and I did a flat bias. And I zoomed in and I like saw no difference. And I'm like, man, the darks, the flats and biased is so much easier than doing the dark flats and darks. But
Okay, so,
Interesting.
uh, and I think that is the point that's another group of YouTubers make is that you don't need to calibrate the light frames with a dark frame if you're
Right.
calibrating it with a flat frame that has been calibrated with a bias or a dark that was made for the flat, right?
Right.
yeah,
So if you make a
Yeah.
dark frame for the flat that roughly matches the same time,
Hmm.
uh, there's another school of thought that that's all that you need. And I will just tell you that I've found that I've got a dark library and it doesn't do me any harm. It doesn't hurt my image if I
Yeah.
add all of the, if I add my master dark for 300 seconds, if I add my master bias, and then I add my flat, I am seeing a significant difference. And that was the point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
But what I really disagree with strongly are the people who saying you don't need bias at all. You don't need to calibrate the flat frame with any
Yeah.
kind of dark frame, whether it's one that's the exact same duration or just a bias frame
Yeah, see,
itself.
I
Yeah.
had
I agree with you on that.
I do too. And I hadn't heard that, Stephen. I hadn't heard anyone say you don't need even bias. I use AstroPixel processor, and the one thing good about it, it won't let you calibrate it without a bias or a dark flat.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
just says, "Hey, I can't do it. I have to calibrate this flat, and you need a dark or a biased." So it won't do it. So that's a
Okay.
good. Maybe I guess PixInsight will, but
Yes, you
AstroPixel
can.
processor won't
Yeah.
do it if you don't have a calibrate if you don't have a bias or a dark for that flat.
Right. So absolutely it will. So well, I don't have on this computer, I don't have any data I would show you, but yes, you would in weighted batch pre-processing, you could load your frames and you could have just light frames. You could have zero calibration frames. It'll give you a warning. It'll say, hey, you don't have anything to calibrate this with. You don't have flats, you don't
Right.
have bias, you don't have darks. It will tell you that.
Yeah,
But you can still click
AstroPixel will do the same
OK
thing, but
and it'll go and do it.
well, what AstroPixel processor will tell you if you load in lights and just flats, it'll say your flats are doing you no good. I can't calibrate those because you have no darks or biased. So basically, when you do that in AstroPixel processor, you're calibrating it without anything. You're calibrating without the flats. Even though the flats are in there, it's saying, nope, we're just gonna stack the lights.
Okay. All
So
right.
that at least that's what APP does. I don't know PixInsight as well.
All right. Well, and I tested this on two different systems, and I might not have made that clear. The fish head nebula was with the plane wave rig. The wizard, I used a different rig. For the wizard, I used the Explore Scientific ESED 127 with the ZWO 2600 uh, mono camera. And so I just want to clarify that because I might not have made that
The
clear.
one thing, the one thing I like about not having to worry about the darks, darks you have to do it the same temperature, same everything. Well, when it gets
Yeah.
colder, sometimes I drop the temperature. So in the old days, I'd have to do a whole new set of darks. Now I don't. So, which is kind
Right.
of nice.
Well, so that's why I've got a dark library at 0 degrees. And then I've got others that are at -10, although that's something else I'm not quite certain, especially based on what we heard last month from Linda.
Yeah.
Linda indicated that she was not convinced that going down to -10 is necessary.
Right. That you got that much benefit.
Yeah, that you get
Yeah.
much benefit at all. And that's uh, so I really don't think having a dark library and then I just save the master darks, right? So it's just
Right.
one file for each duration. So I haven't had I haven't seen that as being a big issue. I just load the master and I let it go. But I was really surprised though that I see this much of a difference when I calibrate using flats and a calibration frame for the flat, which I believe for example, the wizard, I think I used a bias frame. Yeah, that's what it says up here. I used a bias, and then for the other one we were looking at, The fish head, I calibrated the flat frame with a dark frame that was more or less the same duration as the flat frame.
Right.
And the reason it's a little bit different for these two is because for the 127, I'm operating with the ASI Air, and the ASI Air will automatically take the flat for you, and you're expected to go create your own dark frame. With the Nina program, which is what I used for the fish head, with what Nina does is you use the wizard to create your flat frame, and then it will pause and give you an opportunity to cover the telescope, and it will then just automatically take a dark frame that matches the length of time that was necessary to create the exposure for the flat frame. So if it was, I don't know, for HA, it might be, 2 or 3 seconds or 5 seconds. It will automatically stop, it will pause, it will prompt you to put the cover on, or you can just skip taking the darks if you don't need it. But Nina wants you to take dark frames and prompts you to cover the telescope. But since I've now got a dark library created for both telescopes, with all kinds of different time variations, I don't need to do that anymore. But that's what Nina does to sort of force you to do it.
Well, okay, so Nina's a little more subtle than that. Okay. So if you use the wizard, it will force you to, it'll stop and tell you to cover the scope. And the other thing that it does when it creates the dark for your flats is it does move the focuser to the focus position that it took your flats. They've done a lot of studies where apparently it does make it does make difference.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely. I'll agree with that. And that's another great thing about Nina. And I know I went into Nina kicking and screaming because it was, just another complicated software to use. But I'm glad I did. And thank you, Bob, for helping me all those nights where you helped me figure it out. And Glenn Fraser also. It does an excellent job of doing that. So it creates you have an option to do the focus offsets, which allow it to automatically go back to the focus that was used.
yeah,
And
and that's a principal reason why I went to Nina is for the focus offsets.
so,
Um,
yeah,
and then the other thing with Nina is you can, if you have a flat panel, you can uh, in your sequence you can create your flats as part of your sequence.
exactly.
So
And I've been doing that lately. At the very end, I've been having it go create the flats, and I click the box that I don't need it to create the dark frames for me. So by doing that, I just put it in the sequence, and then it will roll. Uh, it's just a really good procedure. And if you're doing multiple uh,
Filters.
filters in one night, it will go back and allow you to do it at a specific time. For example, so if I'm doing HA and then I want to immediately take my HA flats after my HA is done before I change to the next filter, I can do that. I can program it to do that if I want to. I don't know necessarily that I need to, but it gives you a lot of flexibility.
and the other advantage of doing flats in your sequence is if you're doing multiple um, images, whether it's a mosaic and you have, but and you need to rotate, because I have a rotator on my system. Um, then I can take my image, uh, do my flats, and then go to the next object, rotate, and capture my data, and then I don't worry about camera rotation anymore, because being able to do the flats in the sequence, and that's a relatively new thing with Needham.
Yeah,
Right.
it remembers your rotation and goes back and does the rotation. Yeah. What I do on the ASI Air, I'll do them all in the morning because I set mine to just image all night and I go to bed. But so I'm not gonna do the flats in between the sessions. But you can go to the log and you can see what your focus was for each filter. And so I'll just go in and change the filter when I do my flats, change the focus.
Yeah, well,
But I can't. The rotation's definitely something. My other scope's got a rotator, and I probably could use. I think it will let me go back to that one, but when you manually do it, there's no way you can
yeah.
perfectly line it back up.
Well, even with the I have a Falcon rotator. There's no guarantee it's going to go to the exact same spot. So I take flats regardless. Um, and and if I'm doing multiple images or multiple objects, I take my flats along with it, and I don't have to worry about, oh man, I forgot to take the flats for this one, and basically lose a session. Anyway, I'm sorry, Stephen.
Oh, no, not a problem. That's the purpose of having this so that everybody can sort of provide some insight. And the next person who's going to give us insight is Chris Ashford, who, in a conversation I had with him recently, indicated that he prefers to use sky flats. So, Chris, tell us about that. And I'm going to stop my screen share in case you need to do that. So let me uh, adjust this so that you can use the screen share, Chris.
Is he
Sorry, I
still
don't
there? Oh,
have
there he
it.
is.
Because a lot of the files that I would normally share with you on this topic are in Fort Worth, and I'm currently in
Oh,
Colorado.
okay.
But I do have one to show you. So the problem I've had with taking flats with flat panels only really occurs when the auto-calculated exposure turns out to be really, really short. And when you have a really short exposure on a LED flat panel, and it depends on the LED flat panel, but you can get some weird effects. So let me share my screen, share, PixInsight, share. Okay, I've got a bunch of flats here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, so down here, this is the tool I use for increasing the contrast. So here's my flat, and I'm not on this particular camera on this particular day. I'm not using any filters, and so it's a very clean flat. It's just really for vignetting. But when I look at it, and with a lot of contrast, I see this line slap back straight down the middle. It's like,
Oh,
where's that coming from? And I suspect I don't get it with sky flats. And I suspect it's because this is only 50 milliseconds. And so
That
what
an
you're seeing,
artifact of a rolling shutter?
yeah, what you're seeing is you're catching some sort of speed effect of the way the LED panel works. And you remember a few months ago, for the Celestron 9.25 inch scope that I bought, I didn't have a flat panel that was big enough. And I had a spare ceiling light. I thought, well, this is an LED light, we'll use this. And that was really, really terrible. And I had to make sure that my flats were, the exposure time was in seconds and not milliseconds. And only then did the effect of your, it's like an interference pattern. You're seeing the LEDs switching on and off, and it rolls across the screen. So every flat is slightly different depending on where that rolling across the screen took place.
Did you put
Because
paper?
the way these panels work is they turn on the top row, then they turn on the second row, then they turn on the third row, and so on. And especially if you're using a dimmer, the technique for dimming these lights varies from manufacturer to manufacturer, but you can get some very odd effects in your flats, basically. So when I
Do you
say
put?
sky flats,
Oh.
sorry, question?
Yeah, do you put paper in between when you were using the LED? Did you put like printer paper in between?
No, because the LED panels I buy, they've already got a dispersion glass on them.
Oh, okay.
And so I put the LED up there, especially this one I made from a ceiling light. I put a dimmer switch on it and I turned it down to minimum, and it was still ugly. You know, I got some really ugly results. And so anyway, sky flats are smooth, totally smooth. There's no strangeness from that point of view. Let's look at a different one. We can get rid of that. Get rid of that. Yes, whatever. Let's see this one. See this one, HA 12.4 seconds. And what I do is I point it up at the sky and I make sure the sun is behind me and that the scope isn't looking at the horizon, but it isn't looking too far up. So the sun, none of the rays of the sun can come into in the aperture of the scope. And then I put a t-shirt or 2 t-shirts or 3 t-shirts, depending on what filter I'm using and how long I want the exposure to be. So this one I think had like 2, I don't know, it's HA, so this doesn't have so much light, but maybe I had 2 t-shirts on it to make this flat 12.4 seconds, which is a long time. And let's so you see on this one, you see I used my filter wheel. I used, by the way, I used unmounted filters, so it took me a long time to get the filters mounted into the filter wheel, and in that time I got all this dust. Every filter in that filter wheel looks like this, and I wish I'd like bought a like a clean box and opened up the thing and done it in a sterile environment without any dust, because it's almost impossible to stop dust getting in to these things. But anyway, what you see here, you don't see any strange effects. There's no funny lines, and sometimes I even see a matrix of the LED lights. And again, it's a function of the LED manufacturer and how they dim the LEDs. Are they dimming all the LEDs? No, LEDs are either on or off, right? So if you want to dim, you've got to go through some duty cycle. And typically what they do is they will do it line by line and they'll switch them on and off very quickly. And I was seeing that effect in my flats. And to avoid that, you have to go to the more expensive photographic quality LED panels, because sometimes you can't do sky flats. There's a cloudy in the morning, or there are clouds. You can't find a bit of blue sky to look at, and that's going to stay blue for the next half an hour while you take all your flats. You can't do it, so you have to do the LED light. Well, I ditched the LED lights I'd bought, and I went and bought relatively expensive photographic quality LED light panels. They work okay as long as I keep the exposure up.
Now,
So
Chris,
anyway, that's it, Stephen.
well, a couple questions for you. What You use the ASI Air, is that correct?
Yes.
And the ASI Air calculates the amount of time to have the exposure stay open, right?
Yes.
And it's not, and once it makes that calculation, it is not going to stop and measure it again halfway through, or
No.
it's just going to run it straight through.
Yeah. Over the
And
range.
and
The
so do you get a variation from let's say the first 5 frames with the last 5 frames in the brightness of the sky, and therefore the where the histogram is going to appear for the flat frame.
no. Generally speaking, all the flats are the same brightness.
Okay.
FYI, I will use the auto to give me a base, but I usually don't like AirSci Air's calculation of the auto flat. I usually think it's too bright because I always read it's supposed to be in the like 40% range of the histograms. I usually pull it down, way down from what um, the ASI Air tells me. And so I've learned, I know how many pieces of paper I put in and what light, and mine has several different brightnesses. And so I know for red, it's going to be 1.2 seconds. For hot, it's going to be 2.3. And so I just manually put it in and I watch the histogram and I get what I want. So I do it manually. But
Uh,
Yeah.
it-
I mean, I thought about doing that, but I don't bother. I just because the sky can vary in its intensity, so you you can only do that if you're using a flat panel that you have a known intensity right from the beginning.
right.
Set it. But I mean,
all right.
I don't have a
So,
problem with
so
the
Bob,
ASIF flats.
Bob Circus,
Yes,
you,
sir.
you you take flat panel, you take flats, you take sky flats, right? Using Nina.
I do not take sky flats.
Okay.
I, um, uh,
All right.
yeah, I have a flat panel, and even before the flat panel, um, my personal experience, um, not using sky flats, uh, I've always had good success. So I don't have any real experience with sky flats in a dome like at the Noble. It's not going to make any sense anyway. So and I'll show you, when I get the floor, but no.
Okay. So here's what I did. I did an experiment because Nina, it has 2 options. I can tell Nina to close the flat panel, take the flats, and then it'll reopen the flat panel and do whatever I want it to do from there, right? Nina also allows you, it has a setting to take sky flats, right? So you can use that setting, and then it won't close the flat panel. It will just, Nina then calculates, all right, where's the sun and where's the horizon? And then Nina slews the telescope and does exactly what Chris explained. It goes to the opposite uh, end of the sky, and it begins to calibrate how long the flat frame needs to be for. Okay, but what I noticed is that if I don't take the flat frame during, the very early hours of the night, or just before we get to nautical dark. So if I'm doing it during twilight, I didn't have any problems. But if I did it after sunrise, Nina would stop and say, because it started with the red, and then it went to the blue, and then it went to the green. Then I think it went to HA last. And by that time, the sun had risen. And it kept giving me messages saying, oh, we have to stop and we have to recalibrate because the brightness changed, and this is the message I'm getting is it has to recalibrate and adjust the duration uh, of the image and how long it's going to be, whether it's 2 seconds or 2.3 seconds or 2.5 seconds, whatever. And it will stop, and then it will start over, and it will recalibrate, and it will then start taking new flats at that new duration because it's not happy that there's a variation from one frame to another in the sequence. So
And
that's why I
that's
was
when, just to clarify, that's when you're taking flats in a sequence, right? No, not through the framing wizard.
no that
I mean, through
yes,
the
through the flaming wizard.
not the framing wizard. I mean the flat wizard.
Yeah, the flat wizard, because there's a drop down menu where you can select the kind of flat you're going to take, and it can be a dynamic exposure. It can be a
Uh-huh.
sky flat. I forgot what the third one is. But I've used dynamic exposure for the flat panel, and then I experimented using sky flats. And
Okay.
the sky flat setting then causes Nina to slew to a specific spot in the sky and begin this process of taking the flats. And that's when I noticed when the sun had risen and it wasn't, pre-dawn, it had several times it just stopped and it gave me the message, hey, we have to recalibrate because the sky brightness is changing and therefore we need to start over. So it would then start the process all over again. And then eventually I got the 30 flats I wanted, but because I didn't do it, I didn't get them all done before the sun came up above the horizon. It took a lot longer to finish the I think it was the HA flats. Then I just went ahead and I just experimented. Gee, do I get any different results when I do the sky flats with my normal flat panel? And I really saw no difference. So that was my experiment there. There was no difference between the sky flats and my flat panel, and except for the fact that Nina kept throwing little error messages at me that it needed to start over. So that's the only difference I saw there. All right. Do we have anything else that we want to talk about regarding calibration frames for today? If not, let's go ahead and talk about the Helix Nebula, which is the group project that we're working on. Many thanks to Glenn Fraser for providing the framing for that. And if you are going to participate, you can still go download the file and take a look at his framing. And that's what people should be more or less trying to accomplish. And then we should be going out and getting as much data as possible. And this is an image that we can absolutely use narrow band filters for people who are in light polluted areas of the city. So go ahead and take your hydrogen alpha. And that's primarily the narrow band wavelength that we're going to want. But if you give me S2 and O3, I welcome it. For people who are using one-shot color cameras with a light pollution filter, that's also excellent. So just give me whatever data whatever data you can collect with your rig, and I will come up with a series of master lights for people to later on use to process images. If you've got a long focal length telescope, it would really be great if people with long focal length telescopes, and by that I mean if you're using the Explorer Scientific ED-127, which has a focal length of more than 900 millimeters. I think it's 940 something. I forgot. Anyway, that I would consider that to be long focal length. For that long focal length, it would be great if we could get, some L data, right? Luminance, which will provide a lot of detail. So if you're using that long focal length and you have the ability to get luminance, that would be great. I would really love it if we could collect luminance with anything that is of longer focal length.
Yeah.
If you're at 500, like the Raza or the what's the other one? The popular one, the Pleiades 111, which is somewhere around 500, I think. Then really what we need, or smaller, what we need is, RGB or HA narrowband type of frames. Any questions about the group project? We're going to try to get as much data as we can through the end of November, because starting in December, this image is not going to really be in an ideal place in the sky. We'll still take some data if you get us to us after, December 1st, that's fine. But I would like to try to have the masters. My goal is to try to create the masters over Thanksgiving. Now, if you tell me, hey, I'm still taking data, I might put it off a week. But if it's possible for everybody to finish collecting data before Thanksgiving, then I'll take a day during the Thanksgiving holiday to kind of sort through everything and do my best to get a good start on creating the masters that will then be distributed to anybody at the club who wants to take a hand at processing it. And then we'll share the images and then probably put it up for a vote to the club members on which one will sort of represent the Fort Worth Astronomical Society's collaborative image, which is what we've done a couple times in the past.
Stephen, how are you going to, or what are your thoughts on integrating the different fields of view?
So I'm not too concerned about about integrating the fields of view because I've done that numerous times. And so long as I get one registration frame that I feel comfortable with, and this will take several tries to find a reference, because I will manually select the reference frame and it will align the stars for me. Now, some of them probably will get kicked out, but in the past, I've done it, and the most I've ever gotten kicked out where PixInsight would not be able to register the frame was, I think I had about 10 or 15% that got kicked out when we did the Heart and Soul Nebula for some reason, or maybe it was the RISAT.
Well, and then assume, Steve, if everyone's using the same reference frame, I mean, we'll all have the same orientation. It's just some where you're going to have, obviously, I have 1,000 focal lengths, so I'm going to be more zoomed in than the rest of you. So you probably just crop it to what the image will take, I imagine.
Right. So what I'll end up doing is I'll probably take the best data at the longest focal length, and that will be determined by a subframe selector. So if it's Jim Potts data at 1,000 millimeter focal length, that's probably going to be Jim's data that will be used, one of his images as a reference for star alignment and registering all the images.
So,
Yeah.
Stephen, I have a bunch of data. I already have 17.5 hours of data, mainly narrowband.
Great.
But the field of view is really small. It's 0.83 by 0.64 degrees. with an
Would you
image
take it
scale of
with your?
0.46 arc seconds per pixel. So I was just wondering how that's going to jive with everybody else's field of view.
That's probably going to, that is pretty small.
Was that
I
20? Is
showed
that
you
2400 focal length, Chris?
the focal length is 2350.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering.
So, I mean, I can show you what it looks like.
That's,
See.
yeah, let me see.
Let me see.
Yeah,
Share
that's
my
zooming in.
screen. Oh my gosh. Screen 2. Share. Where are we? Oh, we're over here now. I got two screens. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, that's not bad.
Okay, so here we are. I've got like 4 hours each of narrowband HAS2 and O3. And then just for the stars, RGB for the stars. I don't know why I seem to have twice as much blue as I have the others, but I probably just forgot to correct something in my plan. But now you see what it looks like. It's sort of zoomed in compared with some of the other images I've seen of the Helix. Now
Th-
you
That's
could
that's probably going to be
take
very
everybody's data and then
close.
crop it down to this field of view.
That's probably going to be very similar to what we're going to end up with.
Right,
That's not bad looking.
Yeah, that's
right.
probably going to be very close to
There's
the field
quite
of
a
view.
lot of detail in there.
Yeah.
Click on it.
So I don't understand your concern.
No,
Um,
it's just I just want to know, well, are you going to crop the image down to the smallest field of view that you receive from all
So yeah,
the
we may be cropping down to yours, Chris.
right,
and that exactly, as I said, it's going to be the highest quality data with the smallest field of view. So best
right,
quality, smallest FOV is most likely what I'm going to use. But uh, sometimes it's sort of a game time decision on which quarterback's going in. But that's that's how I've done it in the past. Sometimes and for some reason, PixInsight is a great but mysterious software. I have found sometimes that what I think ought to be the reference frame that will work doesn't. And one that I'll just say, okay, try this one, and suddenly I've got 90% of the data registering, and then I'm doing jumping jacks. So, but yes, it's most likely going to be something very similar to what Chris had there. And what was that focal length, Chris?
2,350 millimeters.
2,350. Okay.
What's the focal length of your plane wave, Steve?
2,541.
Okay.
And I'm taking, as some of you may know, I'm taking that out to New Mexico coming up this weekend, and so I'll be experimenting to see uh, what the helix looks like in the plane wave. Will be one of the things I'm checking out. My intent, though, was to use my ESCD 127 for the Helix, and I was going to use the plane wave for some other stuff, but I'm going to experiment with it and we'll see what happens.
And plane wave would be great for some galaxies and
Yeah.
planetary
And
nebulas,
mhm.
DNs.
So it's taken me several months to figure out that telescope and all of its different modalities and its own idiosyncrasies, but um, I think I've got it to the point now where I'm I've reached a level of saturation where I'm not going to get anything better out of my own backyard, and because of the wind, I'm just not going to be able to uh, continue to use it without a permanent structure. I mean, I had a makeshift wind tent. I showed Chris a picture of that. It's, not very elegant, something I made with buckets of sand and PVC and some tarp on four sides, three sides until I got it polar aligned, and then I had a final piece of tarp that I put up on the fourth side. But I was always afraid that that was going to come crashing down on the telescope at some point because the wind, gets to be pretty strong, and that's just not a permanent solution for me. So the New Mexico observatory, which is supposed to be Bortle 1, will be its home, at least for the foreseeable future.
Are you going to
So,
put it in an observatory in New Mexico?
yeah, there's one in New Mexico that I'm going to be driving to, and yeah,
Very neat. That's
yeah,
cool.
Bortle
Yeah,
1 allegedly. So
that big old scope probably catches some wind, doesn't it?
oh yeah, and I mean, and because it's so big and it's sitting on a very large equatorial mount, let's see, I'm about 6'1", 6'2". It is at least 7.5 or 8 feet off of the ground. So
Wow.
the wind tent that I built had to be tall enough to screen it that high, right? So I
Wow.
think I built the wind tent to be 8 feet tall. And, you've got, I think it was 8 feet tall and 6 feet wide. And you're really creating a huge sail, right? So I had to have that thing really weighted down. And in addition to using, very heavy sandbags and buckets of sand to keep it kind of in one spot. I had these little angles pieces. So from one side to the other, there was a 45-degree angle uh, PVC pipe that I used some duct tape to give it a little more stability so that if the wind blew really hard in one direction, it wouldn't completely get it out of square. And then I was worried the whole thing would come tumbling down. And good news, I didn't have any accidents, but I wasn't taking any more chances with it. So anyway, enough of that. Let's talk now about the progress at Rising Star. Bob.
Hey, everybody. I got to pull up a text. It's got my agenda. Okay. I'm going to try and do this in 22 minutes.
Great.
So the current status of the dome, I see Bruce has departed. I was chatting with Bruce after this weekend. I had a very short visit out there because of 1687, and honestly, I just wasn't motivated to go out and work on the dome this past weekend. What I can say is the rotation gear is installed and it will work. It does work now, but it needs assistance. The shutter mechanism is installed and it does work. Originally, 2 weeks ago, it wasn't. Jim and I have been doing analysis and we've got a fix that I pseudo tested over the weekend, and it appears it's going to resolve that problem. So this weekend I'll be heading out to Rising Star to work, and if one or more of you have some time you can spend out there on Saturday, that would be great. So my goal for this weekend is to get the shutter to open and close properly under the control of Nina. The fix for the rotation of the dome is structural. So we need to add some supports because the dome rotator motor has a tremendous amount of torque, and So we need to put some bracing on that, and that will probably solve 90% of the problem. And then we have a problem with one of the wheels that's used to keep the dome part of the observatory on the observatory. So, and we either need to move where that wheel is or get a bigger wheel. My preference is a bigger wheel, because I'm worried about drilling a hole and all that other stuff. So, as I told Bruce last week, I am more comfortable today with where we are with the dome than I was at any time up to this point. So I think we're getting very close to completion. So that covers off the dome. Are there any questions on the dome so far?
No, I'm thrilled to hear this. I was starting to have concern that maybe this wasn't a problem that could be fixed.
No, it is part of the problem. And Jim will say I'm being too polite. Material and workmanship of this product is less than desired. So, and proper documentation on how to put this thing together is, in a word, it sucks. So anyway, so we've I think we've got that now under control. If there are no questions, I'd like to move on to data transfer. So our NAS devices, or the NAS device in my home is here. It's online, and I ran a test today from Rising Star where I moved 376 52 megabyte files in 6.5 hours, and which is 150 megabyte file a minute, which is pretty darn good considering the bandwidth we have out there. And what that tells Peter and myself is that we have the find is going to work, where we're going to start transferring files the moment they're created, so that by the end of your sequence, the data will be pretty close to being delivered to the offsite high-speed storage. Once that data is on the high-speed storage, then we'll do some post-processing to zip it up and put some things together, and then be able to send an email out. Let's say Chris Ashford's schedule time, he'll get an email that says you got 24 hours. This link is good for 24 hours. You click on the link and it's just, it'll download your data set, and then you're off to the races. And then we'll have other mechanisms available from the website to be able to get data. So, so that process is, I'm really super comfortable with it. And the next part of that process is for Peter and I to sort out how we'll keep those two devices in sync. And once we've got that process done, then we'll also have another process that says when the zip file is created, it'll get stashed up on Google Workspace. There will be no people. This is strictly I talk in terms of human-centric and system-centric process. Human-centric means people are involved, prone to error. System-centric is automated, no people, less prone to error. So this process is system-centric, and your access to the data will be system-centric. In other words, you look, oh, I want that one. You'll push a button, then you'll get an email with a link that says, go download your file. So you will not have direct access to these data sets. Questions so far? Does it make sense? Okay, awesome. I think I'm on. So I'm super excited. We were donated a new 2600 MC Pro Duo. I'm going to share my screen as soon as I figure out how to do that. Click, oh, right there, share. And
Loaned,
loaned. Well,
loaned
we have access to a 2600 MC Pro Duo.
on loan.
So this is an outstanding camera. We have a custom mount plate. And I will tell you technically, well, can you also see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, let me go to, so technically it's the best image I've ever done. If you'll notice, so this is 90-second exposures. I took 90, 100 and change in the dome with the shutter up and the dome rotator working. And I did lose a chunk of data because it wasn't working the whole time, and I had to kind of help it move, and I had to remember to get into the dome every hour or so. But if you'll notice in the corners over here, the stars are just phenomenal. And I love this image. It's a great image. I like diffraction spikes. And anyway, this is just an outstanding image. So this is the kind of data we're going to be able to collect from the Noble Observatory. And I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. So another reason why I feel so much more comfortable with the status of the Noble Observatory at this point.
Bob, if I can jump in, so not everybody might be aware of how the RASA works. And if you're not, it's important to know that the back focus needed for the RASA is completely different than your normal telescope. And what Celestron does is they sell you with the RASA a flange that is milled and engineered to work with most cameras out there so that you get the correct back focus and you don't need to add any spacers. Now, the problem with that system is that it assumes a sensor size of a specific size, and you can't go larger because then you're not going to get everything in the image. And with the Duo, you've got two sensors, right? You've got a large sensor, and then above it, you've got a smaller sensor, which serves as your guide camera, right? And it doesn't work if you use the manufactured flange to connect to the camera. The Duo feature, which allows you to use that one camera to do both imaging and guiding, there's not enough space for the guide camera to function. And so that is one reason why a lot of people don't use the Duo for the RASA. I decided this wasn't going to slow me down, and I was convinced that all I needed to do was find somebody who could make me a custom flange, and then my RASA and my Duo could work together. And it took a while. I found somebody in Graham to mill this for me out of aluminum, and I gave him the exact specifications of what I needed, and he created a flange, and it works exactly as you see here. now the RASA does not need a separate guide telescope. It doesn't need a separate guide camera. Using the specially fabricated flange, we can use the Duo, which has both sensors in it, and this is the kind of quality data you get from that. So I'm glad this is working out, although I'm not surprised because I really do miss my Raza. I've got to say that. Anyway, okay. But the plane wave will be my new favorite telescope when it's in the Bortle 1 location. Okay. Anything else, Bob?
Yes, two more things.
Okay.
In the next couple of maybe first weekend in November, we'll have the website out and running at Rising Star. And I wanted to talk about registration. I'm sorry that Richard Hoffman's not here. He's been a great partner as we work through this process. But to use the Noble, you're going to have to register, but the registration is going to be very simple. You will need to know your Night Sky Network user ID, your Night Sky Network principal email, and your Night Sky Network mobile phone. And what will happen is we will take that information, we will verify it with Night Sky Network. And if you're on Night Sky Network, then you'll get registered and then be able to view things. But that's what the process is. We want to keep a very minimal set of PII, and so that's how the registration process is going to work. We're going to have a whole slew of different types of roles, and once you get trained up, you'll be able to schedule and all that kind of stuff. So we'll hope to have that up and running in the next couple of weeks as an adjunct to that. When you go to Rising Star, and I'm the first to admit I don't always remember to do it because I get there and I start working. I don't always sign in. And we really want people to sign in because we want to, it's the only way to find out how much real use we're getting. So about the same time we install the website, there will be signin.fortworthastro.rsoa.com or something like that, where you will enter your either your Night Sky Network user ID or your Night Sky Network email address or your Night Sky Network principal phone number. And that will, if that data is valid, that will automatically sign you in. And if you haven't signed the code of conduct and the hold harmless, you'll walk through that where you'll sign that right then and there. And so that's how the registration process will be. It'll be quick, easy. It's going to be on a responsive website, so you should be able to do it on your phone, although I can't read what's on my phone. So if you have an iPad or something like that, then you should be good. I think eventually we may have a computer in the bunk room where Mike can go in the bunk room and just go do it there. If you're a guest, you'll say, I'm a guest and I'm sponsored by Stephen Kennedy, and you'll sign in. You'll have to electronically sign the code of conduct and the hold harmless, and that's how be able to do that. The manual books will still be out there, but the objective is to make life easier. So you don't have to remember to use the book. You don't have to worry about finding a pen or a pencil or finding the book. So that's my update, and I think I did it in less than 22 minutes.
Excellent.
And any questions? Thoughts?
I have none. Anyone else? We do not. All right. So our next meeting in November will feature Dr. Robin Glover, who is the person primarily responsible for creating SharpCap. And originally he was going to give his presentation tonight. I learned some 10 days ago that he wanted to reschedule and do it for our November meeting, and I said that was fine. So he will be talking about how SharpCap can improve your data collection and improve your astrophotography at our next meeting. All right. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? Troubleshooting, questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Bob. Do you want to continue with the screen share or?
Oh, here, let me unscrew. Let me hang on. Let me unshare.
All right. And Chris has a comment in the chat, something about choosing the right gain for deep sky imaging with CMOS cameras. Chris, what's the?
That is a excellent presentation by Robin Glover.
Oh, got it. Okay.
When I first started astrophotography, I wanted to learn the whys and wherefores, not just how, based on how somebody else does it. Oh, I always do this, I always do that. Why are you doing that? And Robin Glover gives a very good explanation, and it's an excellent introduction to the whole topic of choosing your exposure length.
Right. I remember this video. Wasn't this it was at a conference for that
Yeah, it could have been.
astrophotographers go to, right?
I don't know, but I mean, it's an excellent presentation.
Right. And I think last month we had somebody also, our presenter, referred to that same video, as I recall.
Yeah, Linda, she talked about Glover's work.
So, but and he will be available to talk about camera settings, gain, etc. as well. But I told him that it might be better just to do an overall, how can you use SharpCap in general to improve your astrophotography. But I'm certain that he is going to touch on this issue.
Yeah.
Because it's one that he feels very strongly about, and he feels that we're doing things for the wrong reasons, and we're buying equipment that we don't need. I think that's a fair statement.
Yes.
Yeah. So he feels very strongly about that, and he has the math to back it up, based on what I've seen. So, all right. Anything else? Bob, did you say you had a question?
Yeah. So are we going to meet in December?
Probably yes.
Okay, I would like that. Our plan is the committee plan, Noble committee plan, is to demo the website at the Christmas party. I would like to demo the website to this group before the Christmas party.
Oh, okay.
So
All right. Well,
the
great.
Christmas
Let's
party is usually like the second Saturday in December.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be working with Richard and a couple other folks as we get it put together, but I'd like the demo to this group
Sure.
before the
I
December.
have invited Frank Merrick of SETI Astro to come back and talk to us again. He spoke to us, as you might recall, a little over a year ago. I invited him to come back either in December or January. If you think this is going to take a long time, we might just have him scheduled for January so that we can have the maximum amount of time to have you demonstrate rolling out the product. So just let me know. And
I would like to spend the entire meeting on that because
okay,
what I'm because um, I know how I want this to work in my head.
yeah,
I've got all the bits and bobs working. Um, uh, and I've shown it to some folks and I've taken their advice on some stuff and not on others, but I really want to get some feedback from the folks that are going to probably use it first. And um,
well, great. I will plan on you will be the featured presenter for December, and hopefully it's going to be rolling out first sort of presentation on how our remote observatory is going to work. So
yeah,
we'll look forward to that in December, and I'll slot you in for that December meeting.
awesome.
Uh, Something I do want to point out, SETI Astro now has, Frank has rolled out his own processing software, the SETI Astro processing suite. I forgot exactly what he calls it. It's got a lot of great features. You can stack images. You can do everything that PixInsight does, and it's free. And so the reason I thought it would be a great idea to have Frank come back is I'd like him to kind of show us, well, gee, when you first came on here, you had like a handful of hand, uh, excuse, I'm getting tired, a handful of tools that could be used for processing. And now he's got an entire suite. And one of those tools, it's allows you when you upload your image to Astrobin, it will record for you exactly the number of exposures
Oh,
for
wow.
each filter. And you don't have to go in and hand type the date, how many exposures you had, which filter you used, any of that stuff.
Wow.
You just click a couple buttons. And then when you go online to Astrobin, you'll identify the equipment that you use like you normally do, but there's an option for when you would normally enter the data to upload a CSV type file. And what his new program does is it just creates that for you automatically. So you just do a Control C, copy that, and then you paste it into Astrobin, and boom, all of it populates. So if you look at my Astrobin for the Fish Head Nebula that I uploaded a few days ago, I used the SETI Astro Suite for a couple of different things, including the Astrobin feature where it uploads the exact
Cool.
information needed. So it's a great feature, and it's got lots of other features as well. So cross your fingers, stay tuned that we'll get Frank Merrick scheduled for January of 2026.
Hey, Stephen.
Yes, sir.
Anyone out there tried to catch the two comets? I was actually tried to look at the comet this morning. I tried to look at Lemon. I got up about 6:15 this morning. I knew exactly where it was, but I could not see it. And I don't know, maybe it's because there was a very bright moon right behind me. But
Hmm.
also, Sky Safari says it's a 12.5 magnitude, but all the articles say it's like 7 now. But you would think 7 I could see in a pair of binoculars, but I couldn't see it. Anyone else had any luck seeing either one of them?
Only
Uh,
on Astrobin.
Yeah. I've seen some good images, and I know Lemon will be in the night sky around the 21st, but low, and so will Swan.
Okay, well, maybe I'll be able to capture that from the remote observatory in New Mexico.
Yeah, that'd be
Hey,
cool.
I will try and see what I can find. It's been a very long time since I've done any comet imaging, so I'll have to,
They're tough.
yeah, I'll have to go
Short
back and,
exposures. Short exposures.
That's
yeah.
one thing where I think AstroPixel processor absolutely kicks Pixel Sight's butt. Is their Comet and Mosaic both that I think are a lot better than Pixel Sight's. But
Well, I'll love to hear what you think after you see Frank Merrick's new processing suite,
yeah,
which does everything from
yeah, it'd be fun to see that.
stacking the images all the way through. He's got all kinds of mask creation devices, all kinds of processes. Every process that I think, to my knowledge, that you have in PixInsight you can find in his suite, and it's free.
Wow.
So um, I and I haven't had a whole lot of time to experiment with it yet and make a determination if it's better. But there are some people who are saying it's excellent, including Quiv the Lazy Geek. He did a YouTube video about it not too long ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so you'll want to check that out. But Frank's, you know,
He's pretty
he's gone,
amazing.
he is. He's gone a very long way from just having a couple of processes to having his own
I
processing
wonder if he's
suite.
still gonna do, is he still gonna update his Pixel Sight files?
I think the answer is yes.
Okay. I hope so, because
Because
they're really good if you don't
yeah,
switch. It's nice. I use a whole lot of his. They're great. The
oh yeah,
solid, the star stretch, the dark stuff. I mean, he's so many good ones. He has some
yeah.
great.
The automatic dynamic background
Yeah.
extraction is a good one. The statistical stretch, the what's it called? The blaster, the blemish blaster.
Lemon Splaster's great.
So he's got all kinds, and then he's got a whole suite of new stuff that even PixInsight doesn't have.
Really?
Pedestal remover, and I don't really understand what the pedestal remover does, but that was one of the ones I saw, and so there's a lot of things that he's offering that it's going to make it. I think it's going to be very competitive with PixInsight, and it's free. So
It'd be
it's,
interesting.
yeah, very much so. So, all right. Well, it's about 8:35. Everybody, thank you so much. If there's nothing else.
I've got one more thing.
Oh, you do? Yes, sir. Thank you,
Yes.
Charlie.
So I noticed a lot of people, or several people, having problems with dust, and this is just a simple a dropper bottle, and it's empty, and you can open your rig up and just give it a quick squeeze. But whatever was in there, clean it out with water, drop a desiccated pack in there, and close it up, and it'll be dry the next time you go to use it.
Neat. I like
Ready to
free.
use.
I like free tools.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of paying $20 for a one of those or
Oh,
$50 for one of those photography blowers, right?
blowers, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We can use a free tool. I love free.
hmm
So thank you. Great idea. Thank you, Charlie.
Hey, congratulations, by the way, on your engagement in Paris. That was pretty cool.
Thank you.
Very romantic.
We had a wonderful time. And so, yep, now we're just planning the actual wedding and trying to figure out.
At Rising Star.
I'm not saying a dark sky.
Well, I don't know. We've talked about going to Scotland, and we've talked about going to maybe make it an island, Puerto Rico wedding or something, which would be easier for people to go to, family members and so forth. So we're chatting about that, and we'll get that figured out probably by Thanksgiving, so everybody can start making plans with our families, because there's a lot of people who are going to want to be there for that. So,
Well, that was
Big,
fun.
Big Island's a great place.
which one?
The Big Island of Hawaii.
Oh, yeah, but that's like hard to get to. I mean, that's almost worse than going to Scotland.
No, it is not.
The big island in Hawaii, that's like a 8 or 10 hour flight, isn't it? No?
My
Okay.
son, we
It's about
should.
8 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can,
Going to Scotland's going to be 6 or 7. So,
no, Scotland.
No,
Cozumel.
Scotland is not 6 or 7. Scotland is 10.
Yeah, 9. Yeah, it might do maybe
Oh yeah, 8 or 9, and
okay.
9 is
Well,
But although Scotland is an awesome place, don't get me wrong. I've spent an awful lot of time there.
okay. All right. Well, I've been to Scotland exactly once, and that was before, I want to say it was like 1980s or early 1990s. So I can't remember how long it took to get there. For some reason, my memory is that it wasn't that long compared to my trip to Honolulu, which seemed to last forever.
Well, no.
So anyway,
But Edinburgh has the one benefit of having a Krispy Kreme.
okay.
you get
It was
Krispy
the
Kremes in
second
Ohio.
foreign Krispy Kreme in the country. The first one was in
Really?
not good
the
Krispy
foreign
Kreme when we're in.
ever. The first one was in Harrods department
Okay.
store in London.
Good to know. I don't eat donuts, but
I don't do Krispy Kreme.
I knew there was something wrong with you.
well, it's not, there's so much sugar in it. It's just not, I don't know, it's just not healthy to me anyway. I get a sugar high immediately if I eat a donut. So anyway, all right. Well, thanks everybody. Greatly appreciate your participation. Looking forward to seeing everybody in November for Robin Glover's presentation, and then we'll see you again after that. So clear skies, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.